Hey Sitecore friends, my name is Rick Bauer, Sitecordial on Twitter and YouTube. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to start looking at a recent acquisition by Sitecore known as Boxever. This is a recently acquired CDP or customer data platform. I would call this a step forward in Sitecore's SaaS journey when you roll in things like Sitecore Experience Edge, Content Hub, Boxever, and 451, I believe it is the more of the commerce solution. The CaaS model, or content as a service, is really taking shape. And I'm going to look at this from a top level initial look at Boxever, but it's becoming clear to me that connectivity will definitely take a key role in this, thinking APIs, connectors, and such. This is a powerful piece. Boxever is a powerful piece of a larger puzzle, certainly. This also is starting to show to me a more distinct lines between developers and marketers, and not to say that there aren't already distinct lines between developers and marketers. I am certainly a marketer. I wouldn't be able to touch the developer pool if I wanted to, and I don't pretend to. That is something that you'll hear me refer to, this is going to be a perspective from a marketer, as most of my stuff is from a marketer's perspective. But I do see cleaner lines forming around the role of the developer and the role of the marketer in the solution itself, where developers and architects will be working in APIs and connectors and tying solutions together. And again, if it's software as a solution, they're not necessarily developing the pieces. They're certainly able to customize and build out depending on which version, for example, that you might be working with, the depth from which you can scale and customize. But I feel like it's going to live more in that API and that connection world and tying these robust puzzle pieces together. The marketers, and this is definitely focusing on this high level look at Boxever, Boxever is where they're going to live. Boxever is the place to do personalization. It's the place to do content testing. It's the place to monitor journeys and really build out certain offers and decision models. And I'll really show off the decision model thing a little bit today as much as I can. I am in a sandbox, and it will be rather limited because this is so new, something that I hope to explore as I get into more controllable sandbox environments. But I'll show you what I can and give you kind of that early look. And that's really what this is. So then lastly, I guess I would add in content authors. So the content marketers, content authors, where you could be uploading assets, certainly planning out your content in MRM and Content Hub, the marketing resource manager, to really plan out what content is needed across many channels, working in CMP to build out that content, that text and image and multi-channel content. That's really what CDP, what CMP and Content Hub is for. But pulling all of those pieces together and tying in, so your content and your content authors in Content Hub, your marketers in Boxever, and your developers working with Experience Edge and connectivity and tying these solutions together. So again, this is a really high level look at Boxever. If you are interested in more outside of Boxever and more of the connected pieces, definitely take a look at my Content Hub channel. That is also growing with videos, and I'm going to keep adding more content around Content Hub. And certainly this channel, subscribe, like, follow, all the things that you can do to get notifications as I keep adding videos to this. Okay, so let's break this down by the three things you're seeing on the home page right now. They so politely greeted me with good afternoon and my name. Thank you. The three navigation items here relate to all of these sections on the left-hand nav. Starting with CDP, we'll think of this as a data hub for all of your implicit and explicit data. And there's all the information like connected systems, and certainly information that you can get explicitly, to implicit information like pages visited, goals triggered, things like that. We'll move everyone from an unknown to a known state, or what Boxever calls visitor and customer. They also have what Sitecore calls an anonymous state that lives in the middle, and they call that traveler. I think that there was basically big airline component to Boxever at one point, but basically that is the intermediary. We'll see how much that sticks around, but basically visitor, traveler, customer, those are kind of the three main states of that your users will live as in CDP. So think again of this connected to real-time systems like your CRM or ERP, and being able to pass that real-time data and all of that to drive segments and drive personalization, certainly drive your testing analytics and all under full consideration of PII and GDPR compliance, making sure that your data is secure. The Boxever will, even in the data itself, if you're a PII-based organization and you basically don't even want your customer data showing in the analytics, you can have it hidden under a unique user ID, and never even in internal systems. You can pass that data privately, or if you're able to see that PII information, they can certainly show your name, email, phone number, etc. And you can add lists to this, of course, and pull in from predetermined sources, like points of sale, as they call them, with configurations around email, SMS, forms, etc., you name it. One thing to keep in mind, like Sitecore, Boxever has the ability to connect or reconnect different users' visits from multiple channels. This is, again, omni-channel is really critical now. We don't want somebody starting on mobile and picking up on laptop or desktop or whatever and have that disconnected experience. So Boxever, like Sitecore, will try to mend those data fences, if you will. They will actually just go in and look for some of that PII data behind the scenes, that personally identifiable information, like emails, phone numbers, and information, whatever that unique user ID, if that's available, however they can tie and sew those pieces back together, Boxever will do that. Okay, so let's take a look at CDP. You'll see it on the home screen here. It's this big icon. I can certainly click on that, which will bring me to the top level here, but I can also just click in this menu. Anyway, I'm going to start with the bottom and work my way up. So first things first, it's the subscription list, and the way I look at this is a way to connect like a form, or you name it, any sort of email tool or capture mechanism to bring in your audience. That's where you can do this. So the one thing I did notice is you have your name, your description, and they call it a point of sale. This is where you can pick, the different point of sale tools. There's some in here already that other people have been messing with, so I'm not going to show those on here. But you certainly, there's a couple channels already, but I really feel like this could be form, email. I mean, maybe web is form, but basically a way to capture that incoming information, and then have an unsubscribe built in here to basically manage subscriptions and privacy, etc. So that's how you build that in, and you are able to then remember when I said that this is connectivity, it's all about connectivity. This is a piece that I believe would have to be tied in and prepared ahead of time. And then once that data is connected, then you can start to take this further and start to build segmented lists. And so this is where we create that segment. And you'll notice in here that there's predictive. I really feel like this is something that's going to have to run for a little while to generate that predictive information, things like time-based, like last 3 weeks, or something around location. I don't know, but this is just really where I feel like the robots have to do a little learning to be able to push back some predictive pieces. And then there's the custom ones, and these are the ones we can just define right here. So I say create segment, and I can put this in. I'm just going to do a real simple one, and it's going to be operating system. I'll just do iPhone, and this is going to be, there's very limited data in here, but it'll give you an idea of what this looks like. So here I've created my iPhone. I can certainly, anyone coming onto the site. Oh, look at me type. Users on an iPhone. And then I can add a filter. So here's where I can look at, and you'll see even if I click on some of these, the information that's available here. I'm not going to use one of these right now. Well, actually, what the heck? Actually, I want to before I do that, I want to show you just the iPhone, just to show you this calculate piece. But session, I can say operating system is iPhone, and I can calculate what that looks like, and I think it's going to be a whopping 1 user in our data, but this can be obviously massively different when you have a bunch of data in here, and this is probably going to be the importance of defining the stuff that you're gathering upon import. There will be probably detections and tools like that. I'm assuming those exist already, but again, because I'm working with a sandbox and just getting to know this platform, I'm going to be learning with you on this. But this is, a really quick way to start to add in some information. I could certainly extend this and with an and/or statement, and first page contains whatever, and then I can just say whatever that product is or whatever I want to be selling. So I'll just call it Fender. Let's say this is a guitar site, something like that, and their first page has Fender in that URL. And then I could further add other filters and have more guest information, and this is all just going to make those complex filters to drive my segments. So that's what I'm doing. So, and I'll say is equal to, maybe I say is greater than 25, etc. So then I could save that segment. I would imagine now if I calculate, this will come back with 0 just because I don't have enough data in there to support all of my and/or statements. Yeah, so it just doesn't know. But ultimately what I would imagine is we're going to see a lot more when we build these out and have that information in. We're going to see a lot more data and be able to look at our segments and parse that out and be able to see a more meaningful system of information around my actual users. So this is that CDP element. And beyond that, this last top piece, so I'm kind of working my way up to bottom up from the CDP, is our guests. And this is where, and I'm just going to pick on one over these anonymous ones that are already in here. Not a lot of data in here, but just look at what you can start to see. You can, I really like the visual on this tool where we have time of day and day of the week with a heat map. We have, quick iconography view of channels and devices, and certainly once I have those segments in there, so you see windows and recent orders if there's an order tool tied in. But really cool data, and certainly timeline, and this is, I'm sure, going to start to help drive some of that predictive pieces. Certainly orders, again, not a whole lot going on in here, but you can start to see once we have data in here, it's really going to start taking shape and be able to drive really cool information and at a glance on our users. So if you're a Sitecore user, think of this like, first of all, segments, certainly segments and your list building, but this is some of your Sitecore analytics. This is that way to look at the different individuals and really get that heat map at a segment level, not so much at an individual level, but really start to be able to, actually this could be at a customer level, I take that back, but just really start to be able to parse out that data and really look at how somebody's moving through your site. Okay, so now I've got my CDP information set up, really the data, I should say. So I've got either connected forms, email connected, some sort of tool connected, or I've got a list loaded in. However I get that data in, I've got it in Boxever. I've also built segments. I've built them over OS, built out a segment around age, built a segment around gender, built a segment around product type. Who knows? Whatever those possibilities, those all exist, and I'm sure I can either choose from existing or have my development team build out extras or my admin build out extra segments to be able to access those as well. So just really that CDP level, that level that kind of lives under here, that's all set now mentally. That's what I'm going with. Work with me. Now we want to go to this decisioning piece, because these are really the 3 main steps that I as the homepage would suggest, that are laid out in Boxever. Next is this decisioning piece, and let's just kind of go in here. I'm going to touch on this, and again, very, very stripped back right now because we're limited on some setup functionality in this sandbox. But if I go to my offers this is where I would build in and create offers, but there's one big main piece that needs to be done ahead of time as an admin and is not available in this sandbox, and that is an offer template needs to be created first. So if you see I click create offer, I have no templates available to work from. So, if I try and put any characters in here, whatever, there's nothing, there's no results. Main. Anyway, that's what I came up with in the moment. But that's how I create the offers. The offers are this could be anything, but in its simplest form, a discount, 10% off, 15% off, 20% off. I can create those. Do I think that this could be synced also to CMP and Content Hub? Yes, I do, and I think that content could be pulled in from through that offer template, however that's going to connect. But I do see that all the offers being created in Content Hub and being surfaced up here in Boxever to then define and create those offers here. That's my take, but again, we'll see where that goes. You see, I'm noticing some old legacy tools in here. I'm assuming those will go away. Perhaps, we'll find out. But then the next piece is decision models, and offers will play into this. And what we do is we create a decision model, and I'm just going to call this vendor buyer. And let's add some variants. So let's talk about the states here real quick. Draft state, this is really where I'm going to build out the decision model. You should be doing really a discovery ahead of time when you're doing some of these decision, basically kind of figure out the strategy, the hypothesis, all that information behind what you're going to build here. You're not going to go in here and build on the fly like I'm about to do, and you'll see why that can be sloppy. You're going to create the model. You're going to create the variants. You're going to do a test of those variants, and then you're going to move to production. The test is what is known as a silent test. This doesn't affect your users in any way. It's just to make sure that your decision model is working properly. But then from there, you can define your audience and move to production. And when you're done with this whole model, you can archive it. And from archiving, you can pick up, you can clone and start over. But let's just go in here and we'll add in a couple Fender guitars. Well, we'll just start with the Telecaster variant. So again, this is going to be super high level because there's not a lot of controls here. In fact, some are missing. The AI functionality is usually here, but in its simplest of forms, and you even can see like what we're talking about here, but you've got some inputs that drive this from either my guests or maybe session information or previous order information. And then you're going to have a decision table that these all feed to, and you connect those dots thusly. And then you can further connect external systems to drive information, but this is really, this is that CDP piece that you just spent time. So if you're starting to see how this is being built. So I got my data, now I'm creating the decision, and ultimately we're going to use this to drive experiences. So I've got my inputs, and then I'm going to have some offers that I can then further, I should probably connect this way. With the canvas set up like this, now the next step is to really configure the decision table. Again, I know I'm a broken record on this, but we are going to be a little limited in this sandbox, but I hope I can just get the ideas across. Input information from CDP, definable. Output offers, the content that will show, also definable. Also, I feel like could be coming from Content Hub, and basically kind of delivering up the content. And again, when I say offers, I can just think any content, varying content, but for simplistic states, we could say percentages, percent savings or something like that. The decision table is really that engine that drives it. So I'll click in here. First thing I need to do is configure a hit policy, and this is determining, it's the engine that decides kind of what and how the content shows. So like in Sitecore, when you think about that personalization rule stack, if you're familiar with that. Sitecore is going to analyze top down. In this tool, I can do more than that. I can, in Sitecore, I have to kind of think complexly, think in a complex way about how my rules work against each other. With this tool, I can be a little more free in a way, I should say, but it's around this definition. So I can certainly have, a unique return, the first return that they hit. That's similar probably to what we see in Sitecore from a top-down. Any rule that drives the same output, it'll deliver the same output. So it's about I feel like it's about the output on that one. And then there's this collect where you can start to collect a list of items, or a sum, or a count of different items, so you can see the minimum or maximum that they might be returning based on a numeric value, I'm assuming. So there's and then just rule order, like top down. So, and again, I'm making some assumptions here. So I'm going to keep it simple and stick with an any, and I'm going to configure my input, and we'll call this guitar brand. Let's just call it guitar. Let's keep it simple. And choose the input. And this is where I would think I'd be defining some of that information that's coming from those input sources, but I'll just say Fender. And I'm going to be able to start to add rules in a second. And this is where, actually, you know what? I'm going to I'll leave it at Fender for now. Doesn't matter. And then the output, this is where I could tie into an offer template. I can't do that right now, so unfortunately it's a little limiting, but let's just kind of make it as if it were an offer. So I might not be setting this up right, but that's okay. We're just getting just a general understanding of what this tool looks like. I'm going to make it an integer if I can get there. I say if I can get there. Bit of a trick there, eh? Date. Integer. How about that? Got it. All right. Now, with a hit policy selected, input and output, we can add a rule. And so this is where, by the way, if I have a dash, that means there's no rule, but I could go in and say match one of, and I'm just going to say strat, and I'll add another match one of, and I'll say, oops, sorry, getting the hang of this, match one of, and then I can put the value here. I'll just do square. And not that there's anything wrong with it. Maybe, I don't know, guitar players can chew me out later. And then I'll enter a value, and this let's pretend this is the offer, and I'm going to say you get 20%, and this will be 30%. And that is really the decision table, and I can build more offers around this, and I can put little annotations, etc. And then I could test this against data, but I could save this, and once this is saved, I can move this to test state, and you'll see here a silent test will start, and basically once you have enough time, life goes on. So then you can actually, let's do this here. Start test, view results. there's my results. Obviously this would be much better if I let it run for more than a millisecond, and then move it to production. And I'm gonna skip out of this to not mess with this sandbox, but really this will now be available to choose from an experience. So again, to recap all the way, and this is all I'm trying to do with this is draw those lines. CDP set up that data. That data then becomes available for these decision models to drive it as an input. I can add those offers to it and have that available. Once I get this into production, that is now available to choose from as an experience. And I can apply a traffic and things like that. And that's how I get this to production. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. But just, again, the decision tree is pretty awesome, pretty robust. And again, imagine connecting multiple systems, connecting AI, connecting other tools, and really being able to build this out further. Then we get to the experiences. There's two things in here, and I'm still trying to get a feel for this. One is the web versus full stack. So web experience, I think of it as component design, pre-created components designed to use as testing and personalization components. This seems almost like not enterprise level, but again, I don't know how this is ultimately going to shake out when it's working with the broader world of Content Hub and Sitecore, because then there's full stack, which seems to include sort of the same pieces, but maybe full stack is more connected tools. So the pre-built library, as I kind of am feeling from the web experiences, is probably something that could be used, and maybe that will be the piece that's tying this all together for kind of those components, those parts of the page that you might be driving personalization from. And maybe that's pulling from Content Hub. Maybe that's connected to Content Hub. So I know there's a lot of maybes in this video, but we're early stages. This is just kind of, like I say, kind of that first look. The full stack, and that is if I go over here and click full stack, you're going to see when I create an experience, and this looks the same, pretty similar to when I'm on the web version. Actually, let's go back and just look at that real quick. So if I go back to web and say create experience, so I get A/B test and personalization. If I go into full stack, create an experience, and I can do from interactive or triggered, and think this is more like data from external systems, but what does that mean? Is that tied to the broader solution that is Experience Edge and triggered experiences? I think of this. Back to this. I think like CRM and other systems, triggered experiences. I think more like marketing automation and email and SMS, and it even says that in here. But so here, once I click into that interactive, I'm right back to A/B test and personalization. So I'm just going to stick in this full stack one for now, because I feel like this might be the way. I don't know, but we'll just go into personalization, and I'm just going to name it something. And now we get to go in here and start to look at the way that we want to set this up. And so I see in here that we have a decision model, and I feel like this is where we tie back to those decision trees. So we can create from a template, and this is where we start to get into a lot of code. So this is not something that I would say is going to be marketer friendly, and maybe this is something where we have to set up those external systems. But audience, decisioning, and then a way to set goals. So now we're getting back into kind of that what defines success. So this is really that tool for marketers to pull all those pieces together of on this one very specific experience that I'm making on a page. I could have personalization. I could be running a test. I can decide my audience. I can use that decision model that goes all the way back to the CDP. I can have it parsed versus specific goals, and then I can look at the analytics piece on this. To sum up, I really like Boxever. I really like the interface. I really like the speed of the tool, the kind of the compartmentalized view into personalization and testing, and the way it's built up. There is two favorites, really: A/B testing, the ability to refine the audience a little better, where I can say, here's a specific variant breakout that I want and how I want that to be exposed to different segments that I've predefined in CDP. I like the decision models. I really like the kind of that graph paper flow build and how I can take that further. But there's some unknowns still, a lot of unknowns. This is a fresh face in the Sitecore landscape. Will Boxever continue to be called Boxever now that Sitecore owns it? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, Content Hub was once called Style Lab, so I can see it rolling into the broader ecosystem. So Boxever also has its own set of analytics. Content Hub has its own set of analytics. Sitecore XP has its own set of analytics. Are they going to start to merge this into one view? Is that something that's left up to the individual architects of the broader solution? That's stuff that I'll be interested to see. So will all of this meet in one central place? I don't know. Immediately, I would assume that the data is going to be passed between one system to another if that's the way it's designed, but maybe over time it will expand into that cohesive place. But for now, there is a path forward. I see it. I see the SaaS or CaaS, content as a service ecosystem taking shape, and I'm excited to kind of ride along with this. I hope this preview, as kind of overview as it is, and lacking actual functional data at this point, it still gives you kind of that hint into Boxever. I look forward to showing off more of this as I get to know the tool more, and as I'm able to get into more of a connected system and be able to show this off with perhaps Content Hub, and even more kind of in that experience edge headless Sitecore space. So thank you again. Keep watching. Don't forget, subscribe, share, tell your friends. I really appreciate it. Cheers.